I mean, how do I describe it? It's
bold,
a light,
black,
unapologetically black,
very funny, amusing,
caring.
You give great advice from a different perspective. Passionate,
free.
vulnerable,
a creative,
sexy.
My girl is lit as fuck.
Always ready to twerk a little something.
genuine, very genuine,
Resilient.
like sixth sense, otherworldly. If you know, you know.
it's so vibrant, baby. Hello, everyone, and welcome to So Vibrant, the place where music, history, and culture collide. It's your favorite cultural storyteller, curator, and award-winning host, Adriana. Before I start today's show, I want to first say that despite everything going on in this world, I hope you are taking care of yourselves and you are having a good day or have a good week and beyond. I truly believe that every day that you're on this earth, you have a day, a moment, just a second even, to make it better with your presence, with your work, with your energy, with your essence. So yes, this world, I believe, is a better place because you are in it. Okay? So please don't despair. Please don't give up. We have the power, more power than we know. So with that being said, of course, on my podcast, I talk about a variety of different topics, perspectives, and even interview many different individuals about those same different aspects. And with that, even with discussing my own personal perspective, I do my best to do my research, to actually know what I'm talking about, to really leave you with something that makes you think, that makes you feel like you learned something, or at least you walk away feeling with something tangible you can start with to even expand your own way of thinking or learning. And part of that is due to my experience of being a journalist. And for y'all, if you didn't know, I am an actual journalist. I got my degree in 2014. Since then, I have done college radio, independent radio. I've done a lot of independent projects, and I've done like a couple of documentaries, including, the one for my podcast and just the work I'm doing here on my podcast. And that was honestly the unique part of the knowledge and information and skills I got from my degree, is how well it helped me be able to navigate and, I don't want to say adjust, but understand, understand the world around me and how to better engage with it and analyze it and understand what is going on. So when looking at all the things that we are witnessing in the world, I tend to look at it through many different perspectives, but I decided for today's episode to look at it from a journalistic perspective. And in doing so, it made me realize just how much propaganda and opinion and the lack of facts and journalistic integrity and morals and ethics are being basically blurred and lost within a lot of the information and the imagery that we're seeing. And it made me think of a larger issue that what we don't talk about when it comes to addressing oppressive systems such as white supremacy, racism, patriarchy, sexism, classism, ableism, all any of the isms, is that we don't talk enough about how the media plays a role in that. And I do believe a lot of that because of that blurred line of people believing, well, it's an individual responsibility because, you're the one who turned the TV on. You're the one who's playing the music. You're the one watching the imagery or reading the magazines. And all that, kind of putting the responsibility on the individual. And don't get me wrong, we as individuals do have a hand of responsibility, but in knowing how these oppressive systems work, that's how they set it up to be. That we start to point the finger at each other instead of actually looking at the system itself, which is the major problem, which is the person causing the problem. The media is a major factor in that. So for today's episode, we're going to talk about looking at the way media plays into everything that we're seeing or not seeing. But I'll dive further into that later in the episode, because at first, of course, I have to give you my musical breaks, and I got some more good music, as I always tend to deliver. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll be right back.
All right. Welcome to the Young Gang. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know who you're screwing? Baby, don't you play yourself and think your time alone will bring my loving heart to shame. There's a choice you have to make, gotta eat. Yeah, but give up the cake you can't have. Your cake, you need it too. Your mystery's giving clues, and I can't be sweating you, 'cause I got so much to do. So I gave you to the sky above, 'cause the world keeps on spinning in spite of. And it's not an ultimatum just to see if you care. I just guarantee winnings with my love. You know what you're missing to think about. Yeah, the love you're dissing, it's like trying to give somebody dab. Instead you get a slap, and there won't be none of that. Oh no, 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 no. Oh no. The world keeps on spinning in spite of. That's spite of. It's not an ultimatum just to see if you care. I just guarantee winnings with my love. So just stay. That's winnings with my love. Oh, just stay. Why don't you stay? Why don't you stay? Hey baby, you gotta stay in my life. Yeah. Just stay. There's winnings with my love. There's winnings with my love. Stay. Oh yeah. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know what you're missing to think about? The love you're dissing, you can't have. The cake you need to do. Your mystery's giving clues, and I can't be sweating you. I can't be sweating you. Can't be sweating you. I just can't be sweating you. I just can't be sweating you. No, 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 no. Sweating you, sweating you. I can't be sweating you, sweating you. I won't be sweating you, sweating you. I can't be sweating you, sweating you. No, 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 no. I can't be sweating
Classic. And that was Donnie with Do You Know. Y'all, if y'all have not heard his album, The Colored Section, oh my God, please listen to it. And it's a beautiful segue into what we're talking about today, because the message of that song for me, looking at it in the same realm of today's topic, is Donnie basically asking, like, do you not know who I am? Do you not know I can see through you? Do you not know that regardless of what you do, I'm going to still be myself. I'm going to still learn. I'm going to still analyze. I'm going to still stand true to the truth. And that is an important stance of having when we are engaging with the powers of the media at the helm of these oppressive systems that tend to try to show us or tell us what the truth is. It only becomes more challenging to decipher the truth as the mass media industry continues to grow, especially with the rise of digital platforms such as YouTube channels. Podcasts become and grow in popularity with social media platforms of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and alike. And fortunately, a lot of people who are over these platforms are opting to use propaganda and their opinions to push different narratives and agendas, not necessarily that are fact-based, that have no support behind them, and honestly, in some cases are completely wrong and just untrue, but taking advantage of the rise of anti-intellectualism, of people not reading at a higher level or having a stronger comprehension. It's allowing these oppressive systems to really control a lot of the way people are thinking, moving, and interacting with each other and the world. So that's why it's more important for us to clearly define the difference between actual journalism and these propaganda opinions and misinformation. So to be very clear, journalism is the activity of gathering, assessing, creating, and presenting news and information through mediums such as print, which is our magazines, our newsletters, articles, television and the programming, radio and its programming, and of course the internet. Some people actually have online radio shows. A lot of the magazines are going to catalog kind of styles online and digital formats for people to access them. And then, of course, platforms like Twitch are rising in popularity that are actively live streaming, sometimes 24 hours at a time, showing information in different perspectives. So these mediums all have their place and are very powerful tools of influence. That's why I feel it is important to call out the media or these platforms in a sense and hold them accountable, really, about the role that they play in all of this. Because when it comes to propaganda is simply defined as the deliberate, systematic spreading of biased, misleading, and manipulative information, ideas, and rumors to influence public opinion, actions, and beliefs. And the thing about propaganda is it's not a new concept. It has always been around, especially when we look at it historically around war times. So it's not lost on me, especially with this war going on in Iran that U.S. and Is Not Real have decided to start, that they are consistently hyping up the need of security, the need of taking control of the quote-unquote Middle East, the actions that they took in Venezuela, the actions that they're taking in Cuba right now, the actions that they're doing with Palestine and Congo and Sudan. They are using propaganda to justify the actions that they have and to get people on board. And like I said, the historical context of that is typically around war. That's when we start to see the most propaganda being used. I mean, going back to World War I, World War II, propaganda was a huge factor in getting the American public to agree, to be on board, to and damn near celebrate the fact of people going to war and fighting for the freedoms and fighting to liberate and all these different kind of things that they were talking about, when really, if it wasn't for the journalists of that time showing the reality of what is going on, for instance, during the Vietnam War, when journalists started to show images of what the soldiers there were actually doing, the carnage that was actually happening, the death tolls of how many soldiers and civilians were being killed unjustly and just recklessly. And that's what caused the uprising with a lot of the different colleges, with a lot of the anti-war, the make love and peace and whole movement of that. Issue with Watergate and the whistleblowers, Guantanamo Bay, all that information was spilled by journalists who saw the propaganda being used to negate the truth and manipulate people. So there always has been this tug of war, this pull of showing the difference between the truth and between the narratives and this outright fake news, the real fake news. But how that line started to blend is as journalism, as I stated earlier, started to grow and expand, that they also tried to capitalize on the tactics that are commonly used in propaganda. To cite an article by John C. Merrill, who is a journalist and an educator who teaches journalism, he talks about how in this particular article of journalism versus propaganda, how a lot of journalists saw it very beneficial to use some of the techniques of propaganda within the context of giving their information, because they are using the same kind of writing styles, the same kind of emotion catching headlines, the same kind of wording, and the different kind of techniques in order for people to be more engaged with what they're saying, to hook them and make them want to follow along on their word, to spread the information and gain, in a sense, more popularity in what they're saying or in what they are trying to promote with whatever they're trying to cover. So for instance, when you think about the techniques of propaganda, and because they're still present today, to give you an example of those, the biggest one is the emotional appeal, which is basically acting on people's already fear, already having anger, or even in some cases where people are just striving to find some kind of hope, something uplifting. Now, on the latter level, that is what we're seeing in journalism today. Like, who doesn't like the feel-good story, right? Who doesn't like the community coming out and supporting this person? So you have like the fluff stories like that within the news. But when you give that to propaganda, or journalists take on to that, that's when we start to get these headlines hyping out about the safety of the community, the fear mongering that we hear about immigrants, how this administration was talking about Haitian immigrants or the dangerous criminals coming across the border and all that. That's hyping on that fear. That's hyping on that uncertainty. And they won't question it. They won't think twice about it. They'll just follow along with that, which is another technique of propaganda, which is called bandwagoning, which typically, if the majority is doing it, then everybody's doing it. So everybody's going to hop on and follow through. And we typically see this with when they start to use a lot of celebrity influence or the popular influencer is saying a certain thing. So now if this certain influencer is doing it, their audiences are more aligned to connect with it and move in. Which leads me to another point of why it becomes hard to decipher between propaganda and journalism. Is one of those things is the access that journalists are given. Because according to a scholarly article by Merrill, and charge my head, not my heart if I've mispronounced that last name. But in the article, Miss Merrill talks about how, for one, that journalists have access to some of the top, most powerful political players and status in the world. And that is very true. For instance, looking at news now, that from this administration to all these different governments to the international laws, there are journalists on the ground with these areas, in these areas, being able to access certain information, to access certain individuals, and these people are pretty powerful. And so to keep that access, to be in the area, to be in those spaces, they are more likely to concede to whatever image, to whatever information, to whatever narrative those people in power want to promote. And we definitely see that in the concept of mass media with these companies that are being controlled by individuals who have connections to these same powerful people. With that kind of hands-on kind of connection, they have more of the money, more of the power to be able to drive the influence. How can you say that it's objective? How can you say it's non-biased? And that it's not being manipulated when you have already such major players using their own influence to determine what can be said, who can say it, and when they can. And journalists are put in a position to either concede to that or to fall back, or in some cases we're seeing being replaced, largely with journalists of color. Black journalists are losing their jobs or being fired or being removed. And in even worser situations, journalists are losing their lives just simply doing their jobs. Ashe to all the journalists of Palestine and Congo and Sudan who have consistently risked their lives just trying to tell the world about the genocides that they're experiencing, who were ultimately silenced for trying to tell the truth, for trying to show the truth and show the information and show the data and showing you what really is going on in these countries against empire, against these oppressive systems. If you follow me on my social media, especially on my Instagram page, which is _ I am Lady AC, in my story I consistently would talk about and show images of journalists from around the world, because I felt as a journalist I had a responsibility that it was our job as a journalists that are still here, that are still able, that still have platforms, to also continue to show their message and to show their truth, because that is what we ultimately signed up for when we want to do this job. And I feel it's a disservice, and it goes against everything that we learned about being journalists if we did the latter. But I also am aware of the risk of that, and to show just a tinge of grace, because nobody wants to lose their life for doing their job. Nobody wants to lose their livelihood. But at some point, where does the ethics play a part? Where does the integrity play a part? Where does the morality come into play when it comes into the stories and the information that you choose to tell? To piggyback back to John C. Merrill's article, that's what he talks about, what makes the major difference between being what he calls a propagandist, individuals who promote propaganda in the lens thinking that they're journalists, is the integrity of that journalist. What is the information? What are the stories that you are committed to sharing, you are committed to telling? And unfortunately, what we're seeing in today's times, that a lot of them are choosing to go the safer route that makes them more popular, that makes them more money, that gives them more access. And that pivots to another point that in Mira's article that she was talking about, in addition to gaining access, there also is a celebrity, a popularity that comes with journalism. Because if you look now, with the growing rise of celebrity and influencer culture, journalists are starting to become those same kind of platforms too. They are starting to get noticed, and they are starting to be seen in this realm, in this light. And that kind of status, that kind of power is addicting. And people with the history of humanity, when some people get that kind of access and power, they don't want to give it up. They don't want to lose it. And they will do whatever it takes to keep it. But the downside of that is that it ultimately impacts the integrity and the validity of the work that you do as a journalist, which creates, already in a world where people are already questioning, are already believing the concept of fake news, or don't already have the comprehension to tell the difference, they start to basically mistrust what you're doing. They start to mistrust the profession as a whole, and that influences these oppressive systems to swoop in and create more narratives and use the journalists, use the propagandists that are on their side to help them promote these images. A very famous example of that is when Trump began to do his campaign and his sloganing and all that. One of the big things he would promote was the concept of fake news, of how not to trust the media, of how the media was twisting and turning and just promoting all these different things. But he was taking advantage of this already growing mistrust of the media. And so what happens when people started to mistrust the media, they started to look for other resources. They started to look for other individuals, other notable and worthy platforms of media, of news, to get their information from. Conservative side, they saw that growing platform and went directly to that, and saw an opening for them to be able to push their narratives, able to push their opinions, able to push their propaganda, and actually be able to successfully platform it to a way where it could sustain itself. That's why it's this rising phenomenon of people who think that just because they have access to podcast equipment or microphones or editing software that they can be a journalist. There's also why there's a growing opinion that people think that AI and robots can easily do this job because of the integrity being played down, because of the profession itself being torn apart and being picked apart by how basic and biased some people treat it. Being honest, it aggravates me because it takes me back to when I was getting my degree and how many people I used to run into or be in classes with who would proudly tell me how easy my degree was, or how anybody could just get my degree. But then when you would talk to them about, okay, well, what kind of work are you doing? What makes you think that's so easy? And then 9 out of 10, they were cheating. They had somebody else doing their work. They were copying something else. And it's like, And I think about that when I look at it now, like that's basically what people are doing now, and still have the nerve to feel and downplay the importance of journalism and not realize the set of skill and information and knowledge that it takes to be that. How aggravating it is to see certain celebrities, even some of them that I like, can't hold a basic interview. Can't wait and listen and actively listen to the people that they're talking to, that are quick to throw rage bait and zingers and one-liners, or try to one-up the people so they can be the first to break the story or the first to get the latest gossip, versus actually trying to well inform, and you can also well entertain the people that you're communicating with or your audiences. Regardless of how you feel about her personally, when it comes to the realm of Black media, especially in the gossip spaces, Wendy Williams was an amazing example of how to do that. And what a lot of people don't give her credit for is that Wendy was a journalist. She went to school for this, and it was very evident in the work that she did and how she did her work. She always had her sources. She always had her information together. And like I said, even if she did cover some kind of messy situation or brought up the latest information or got people riled up in their emotions, in the environment, or things that hit the wrong way, she always knew how to handle herself in that. And that takes a set of skill that you have to learn. Yes, it also was, her uniqueness about her, but that also was very clear that her education was at play. And that is what a lot of people don't take the time to develop. There's also what these advanced technologies also don't understand, because when we really be true at understanding how AI works, a lot of it is being programmed by the very same people who devalue our work, who devalue our existence. And yet they are the ones programming this situation. But that's what's going to take over. That's what's going to create all these, or take all these jobs away.
I beg you don't fade away, 'cause I already suffered more than enough when I heard the news today. I wonder what's going on in the world that we live in, so unforgiving, but you are my escape. So I want your arms surrounding me, 'cause baby your love, it comes for free. Let's hop in the car, to find some inner peace. Take me away. Take it all away. Take me away. Take it all away. Yeah, when I'm rolling here beside you, just the way I like to, baby, I know how to be strong. And as I'm looking out the window, I let all the shit go. It's you that I'm holding on to, with your arms surrounding me. 'Cause baby, your love, it comes for free. Let's hop in the car, I want to find some inner peace. Take me away. Take it all away. Take me away. Take it all away. Take me
top down in the breeze. Times like these, you and I both need a release. Moments like this, gotta get in a peace. World on fire, only you can make time freeze. I don't wanna fake it with you. With my love, you're guaranteed the truth. I put a mask on for the world, we all do. But I only wanna lie next to you. Lately I've been feeling low. I can't even turn the TV on or look down at my phone. I know men ain't supposed to cry. No, you need me to be strong. But I can bet you one thing, I'll never leave you alone. See, this feeling's worth more than gold, worth more than wood folds, or a Lexus, or some diamonds and a Rolls Royce to impress us. When it comes down to it, we all need someone to hold. I'm on my way, baby, grab your purse, let's hit the road.
And that was Sinéad Harnett featuring Atlanta's own EARTHGANG with Take Me Away, which this is exactly how sometimes we feel when we see these news headlines, this information, or just complete rubbish, as my last guest would say. Shout out to Coach Jim for that. But when we witness all of that, it can make us want to run away, want us not to deal with it, to disassociate. But the goal of all this being bombarded against us is for us to feel that way. Don't get me wrong. I think it's always good to unplug and take a break. But in doing so, we also have to still stay alert, still be aware. So as I was stating, being exposed to all this is, well, what do we do now? How do we be able to move forward and start to actually search and seek for the truth? And how we begin that is especially looking at journalism and wanting to find relatable, factual information. The best bet is to start following independent journalists. These are the journalists who take the genuine time and or the media platforms that take the genuine time to really research, really connect with the people, their audiences that they're talking to, that in some cases have started their own platforms so they can do that. They've created their own newsletters so that you will be well informed, that you can find who they are, what they're about, where they got their information from, where their sources are. Of course, here, So Vibrant, I'm going to do that for you. But there are, for instance, in Georgia, B Capital is a very good independent journalist platform that does a lot of predominantly Black and people of color centered information. The Atlanta Daily World is still pretty good with their information. WRFG, Radio Free Georgia, and in partnership with Democracy Now! Of course, Democracy Now! Is out of New York, but they broadcast all over, and they do a very wide range of independent and world news. Any kind of public broadcast network, system, station, all states have them. Of course, because I'm here in Georgia, there's Georgia Public Broadcasting, and I know they took a major hit from this administration, but these stations are still out here, are still accessible, from PBS to NPR. Please support them. Please connect with them, because they are dedicated to giving out genuine, real information and education. So we have to rally behind these platforms. So you really have to do your due diligence and search for those. Best ways of how to search. It is okay to ask where this information come from. When you look at the title, when you look for who wrote it, and click on or look up that author. Because one thing about a journalist or someone or a company with journalistic integrity, they will show their accreditation. Meaning you will be able to easily find their degrees. You'll be able to easily find their work. You'll be able to easily find their works cited pages or the and when I say works cited, they are able to show you exactly where they got their information from, what articles they used to find their information, what professors they went to, what interviews they went to, the people who they interviewed. Like, it's very detailed. It's very thorough. Another way, especially when you're looking at internet sources, any website that ends in edu is typically scholarly or some kind of scholar background. So those are the most trusted. Any .org, because these are organizations that take the time to truly do the information and dive and cover their bases when it comes to integrity and being very factual and having very database driven information. Those are big ones. And just simply reading. Libraries. Our libraries, y'all. Please utilize our libraries. They have all these resources, from the physical books to online journals to archives. Also offer programs to help you with learning how to comprehend, learning how to read better, learning how to engage. And at every reading level, every age level, grade level. So there are a lot of ways to combat this propaganda and these issues of anti-intellectualism. We have ways to get around this, but we have to collectively do this. But I will say, specifically with my platform, I do want to take my own, and speaking of talking about taking responsibility, take the responsibility of being able to tell you this information, especially moving forward with any other content that I use, from my social medias all the way to my episodes. I am dedicated to continue to push information, to make sure to do my own research, especially even if I am showing my opinion, even if I'm talking about a perspective, to fully research it, to fully talk about it, but honestly just to get you to think and to give you a better start on knowing how to think and research for yourself. Because I do want to say, regardless of the risk, regardless of how popular and hyped up propaganda is, there has been, there will be, there are journalists that continue to share truth, and looking at it through a historical lens. Journalists of color, especially Black journalists, have been doing that for centuries. There's a reason I made sure to do this episode this month, because one of my idols in journalism began her historic start, and her name was Ida B. Wells. On the 9th of this month, 3 of her friends, Thomas Moss, Calvin McDowell, and Henry Stewart, were lynched in Memphis, Tennessee. A couple of the white business owners were jealous of the fact that their Black-owned grocery store was doing so well. And once Ida B. Wells learned about the tragedy of her friends, that is where she began her investigative journalism into lynching, which led to the crusade of her anti-lynching information and newsletters that she is well known for now. And just like Ida's story, there are countless Black journalists, women journalists that follow suit by pursuing so many different avenues of media to make sure that our stories of marginalized communities continue to be showed, continue to be heard. And yes, they were hit with resistance too. Ida B. Wells was consistently, her life was threatened, was consistently shut out due to her gender and her age and just her status of being a journalist. And we're starting to see that echo now, especially with from the journalists in Palestine, Congo, Sudan, all the way to the journalists here in the States, with what happened just a couple months ago with Don Lemon and Georgia Ford and the two activists who are currently still battling their arrest. So there always has been a risk, especially for us as journalists of color, Black journalists. But once again, echoing John C. Merrill, it boils down to the integrity, the ethics, the morals of why you as a journalist choose to do the stories that you do. At least that's what I want to do. That's what I'm committed to do as a journalist, as a lover of media, as a lover of humanity. But I got my soapbox though, kind of a lot of y'all time already. But hey, y'all here because you love it, and you know I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Speaking of keeping it real, just want to give a heads up that if you haven't read the show notes for this episode, this is considered season 4's finale episode. Can y'all believe I have reached 50 episodes already? Oh my gosh. And so with that, I am taking some breaks in between. Now, I do have some special episodes coming up, but they will start to roll out a little bit more slowly, because in that I'm also working on other special projects that I can't wait to show y'all as well, that I'm going to present on the podcast. So with all this newness, I know with the level of creativity I want to add, with the information, and to being clear about my own integrity and research and sharing information, I know it's going to take more time than a week to produce it. So I just ask you to bear with me for a little bit. But of course, you have all the great episodes and information that I have shared already. Continue to still listen to those. Continue to still share those. Continue to still put people on to you, girl, because I know I definitely will. And of course, continually, you can always reach me on my social medias with facebook.com, which is Queen Lady AC. On Instagram and Threads, it is _I am Lady AC. And on X and Twitter, it is capital I am Lady AC. So I ain't going nowhere. I'll still be around. It just be my episodes would kind of be a little bit more slow to produce. But I'm still here. And I'm still going to show up. And I'm still going to tell the truth. My truth and all truths. Okay? If you haven't heard it anywhere else, I want you to hear it right now at this moment. I love you and I wish you well and wellness fully. And to make it very clear, free Congo, free Palestine, free Sudan, free Haiti, free Cuba, free all oppressed people. Believe survivors. And listen to Black women. Just saying. Like I said, I'm making it clear. All right, y'all. Bye.